Vaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Hey Krishna
करना
Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pricharine Nirviseshasha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
हरे
Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 3, Chapter 6, and we finished the text 36 and 37 yesterday. Okay. So the actual purpose of the year. Yeah, we finished 36 and 37. So we'll start with 38 today. Atmano avishto vatsa mahima kavinadina samvatsara sahasrante diya yoga vipakkaya. O my son, the original poet Brahma, after mature meditation for 1000 celestial years, could know only that the glories of the Supreme Soul are inconceivable. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So there are some froggish philosophers who want to know the Supreme Soul by the means of philosophy and mental speculation. And when the devotees who are to some extent in knowledge of the Supreme Lord admit that the glories of the Lord are inestimable or inconceivable, the froggish philosophers adversely criticize them. So after doing tapasya for 1000 celestial years, means 1000 years of the demigods. Now that's in our human calculation, that's a long amount of time. Brahmaji, after he meditated, he did austerity for 1000 celestial years. What was his conclusion? That the Supreme Lord, his activities, his glories are unlimited. They are inconceivable, not easy to understand by ordinary mundane people. And they are limitless, not possible for us to count all the glories of the Supreme Lord. Ananta Shesh has been speaking the glories of the Supreme Lord since time immemorial with his thousands of mouths, but till today he's not stopped speaking the glories. He's continuing to speak. So imagine how inconceivable the whole thing is. How many glories are there of the Supreme Lord? How glorious is the Supreme Lord? And so here, Bhagavatam is saying that when the devotees, after some time, when they realize, oh, wow, I really can't understand everything about Krishna, he's unlimited. So it's difficult to understand. For example, this Damodar Rath, every day we sing that Mother Yashoda, she was not able to bind Krishna, no matter how much rope she brought, and it was being too short. But how is it that every day when she was dressing him up, she was able to tie the waist ornaments, she was able to tie things around his waist. But then when she wants to tie the rope, she's not able to tie. So that's inconceivable. No? And then when the devotees say that, Bhagavatam is saying that the people who are very, very proud of the mental thinking capability, logic, understanding, then they say, oh, you cannot underestimate how much glorious the Lord will be. According to me, it might be only this much. These philosophers, like the frog in the well, who tried to estimate the measurement of the Pacific Ocean, like to take trouble over fruitless mental speculation, instead of taking instructions from devotees, like the original poet, namely Brahma. Lord Brahma underwent a severe type of meditation for 1,000 celestial years. Yet, he said, the glories of the Lord are inconceivable. Therefore, what can the froggish philosophers hope to gain from their mental speculation? So, hearing from Brahmaji, we should give up our attitude of trying to mentally speculate, trying to judge by our mind. Instead, we should hear from the authorities. It is said in the Brahma Samhita that the mental speculator may fly through the sky of speculation with the velocity of the wind of the mind or the wind for thousands of millions of years, and still he will find it inconceivable. So the mind, we know the mind is very swift. It takes us how many thoughts in one moment, So Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma is saying that we might try to think how much ever our imagination can let us think. And that also keep on thinking for thousands and millions of years. And yet we will not be able to understand the supreme absolute truth. The devotees, however, do not waste time in such vain searching after knowledge of the Supreme, but they submissively hear the glories of the Lord from bona fide devotees. Thus, they transcendentally enjoy the process of hearing and chanting. The Lord approves of the devotional activities of the devotees or Mahatmas, and he says, so we have a choice. We have a choice that we can say, no, why shall I hear from these devotees? I don't want to hear from them. I want to experience by my own self. So I'm going to think, I'm going to try to get knowledge. I'm going to do my own research work. And I will be able to understand the absolute truth. Or we can actually hear from the authorities, follow the footsteps, what they are saying, hearing the pastimes of the Lord, chanting his glories, to understand the absolute truth. So they're both, the choice is ours. Who do we want? What path do we want to follow? Of course, in one path, it is very difficult because the mind can take us so many different places into so many different paths. But if we hear from authority, then we know the process is the quickest. It is the result is guaranteed, and the process is enjoyable, is blissful. Hearing and chanting about Krishna, we enjoy, dance, eat prasadam, see the beautiful deity, associate with such wonderful devotees. So the whole process itself is enlivening. Of course, the choice is ours. The Lord approves of the devotional activities of the devotees or Mahatmas, and he says, Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim ashritah bhajanti ananya manaso kyatva bhutadim avyayam satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhridavratah namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Bhagavad Gita 9:13-14. The pure devotees of the Lord take shelter of the Para Prakriti, the internal potency of the Lord, called Lakshmi Devi, Sita Devi, Srimati Radharani, or Srimati Rukmani Devi, and thus they become actual Mahatmas or great souls. So we are always here, somebody is called Mahatma, but what is the activities? Mahatma means a great soul. So this title should not be conferred whimsically. Mahatma Krishna is saying, who is a Mahatma? Is a pure devotee who's taken complete shelter of the Supreme Lord, who's taken shelter of Srimati Radharani, of the process of devotional service, his internal potency. All are his internal potency, Lakshmi Devi, Sita Devi, Radharani, Rukmani Devi. Mahatmas are not fond of indulging in mental speculations, but they actually take to the devotional service of the Lord without the slightest deviation. So who's a Mahatma? That he does not want to mentally speculate. He does not want to do guesswork that according to me, the absolute truth should be like this. Let me try to get more and more knowledge of the absolute truth. What's a Mahatma? He is saying, I will follow the authorities, the devotees who have traversed this path. They have already made this path. Let me just follow in their footsteps. And that's how they become a Mahatma. They're following the predecessor acharyas. And what they are doing, what's the process? Taking up devotional service, the process of hearing and chanting, without the slightest deviation. They have firm faith that by just doing this, I will know the absolute truth. This transcendental method practiced by the Mahatmas gives them sufficient knowledge of the Lord, because if the Lord can at all be known to some extent, it is only through the means of devotional service and no other way. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mam ye prapadyante tam tatheva bhajami aham. As you surrender, to that degree, I reveal myself to you. So how much we actually want to know the absolute truth, to that degree, he reveals himself. To that degree, we can understand, we can experience him. One may go on speculating and waste the valuable time of his human life, but that will not help anyone to enter into the presence of the Lord. The Mahatmas, however, are not concerned with knowing the Lord by mental speculation, because they enjoy hearing about his glorious activities in his transcendental dealings with his devotees or with the demons. The devotees take pleasure in both and are happy in this life and the life after. So the path of knowledge is very dry, and it makes the heart very hard, makes the ego stronger, because we are saying, I'm gonna do it. But the path of bhakti, the heart softens. We are associating with the devotees who have such divine qualities. And then we are hearing and chanting about the Lord, which is so pleasurable. And the Lord's dealings with his devotees, which is all based on love. So just hearing about this also softens our heart, and then we feel happy. So it's a joyous process. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9.2 that this is a devotional service, is a happy process, it's a joyful process. Is that okay?
Yes.
Ato bhagavato maya mahi nam api mohini yat swayam chatma vartatma na veda kim uttapare. The wonderful potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is bewildering even to the jugglers, That potency is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord, so it is certainly unknown to others. The froggish philosophers and mundane wranglers in science and mathematical calculation may not believe in the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are sometimes puzzled by the wonderful jugglery of man and nature. Such jugglers and magicians of the mundane world are actually puzzled by the jugglery of the Lord in his transcendental activities, but they try to adjust their bewilderment by saying that it is all mythology. There is, however, nothing impossible or mythological in the supreme omnipotent person. So I'm not sure if you all have heard when you all were growing up or in school that, oh, Ramayana, Mahabharata, all this is mythology, the great epics are mythology. Krishna may be a mystical person, maybe he's just a king with some powers, or just some mystic, so just a mystic, or maybe he didn't even exist, So all this because ordinarily we are not able to understand that God is so great, he can act in such wonderful ways, and because we can't act it, and we are thinking he's like us, and because we think he's like us and we don't have these wonderful powers, so we say, it's all mythology, cannot be true, it can't be true. But what's happening is that they are just getting confused by Maya Devi. They are just getting in this illusion more and more. The most wonderful puzzle for the mundane wranglers is that while they remain calculating the length and breadth of the unlimited potency of the Supreme Person, his faithful devotees are set free from the bondage of material engagement simply by appreciating the wonderful jugglery of the Supreme in the practical field. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that just by understanding, by hearing about my wonderful appearance, my qualities, my pastimes, one does not need to come back to the material world, but goes to the spiritual world. Just by hearing, just by understanding the nature of Krishna's appearance and activities. So we don't even need to speculate, oh, maybe like this, maybe like that. No, we just submissively hear. And then just by hearing what's happening, we can get out of this material world. So Krishna has made this process very easy for the persons who want to take it up, who actually want to get out of this material world. The sincere people who really want to get out of it can easily take this process of hearing, trying to understand the pastimes of the Lord, and no need to come back here. The devotees of the Lord see the wonderful dexterity in everything with which they come in contact in all circumstances of eating, sleeping, working, etc. A small banyan fruit contains thousands of small seeds, and each seed holds the potency of another tree, which again holds the potency of many millions of such fruits as causes and effects. So the trees and seeds engage the devotees in meditation about the activities of the Lord, while the mundane wranglers waste time in dry speculation and mental concoction, which are fruitless in both this life and the next. So a devotee, when he sees, oh, so wonderful, how Krishna is so wonderfully arranged, one tiny seed, and inside there is how many banyan trees are there inside, in one seed, because that one seed will become one tree. That tree will have so many seeds. Those so many seeds will be in so many trees. Isn't that like it's so mystical, it's so wonderful. And so, but if we try to remove God from the picture, then what will happen is that we are just wasting our time. Why? Because then we are trying to understand without keeping the main important foundation. And then if we are taking out the main important foundation, if we are trying to understand with our own mind, where will we reach? We won't be able to understand anything. In spite of their pride and speculation, they can never appreciate the simple activities of the banyan tree's potency. Such speculators are poor souls destined to remain in matter perpetually. Is that okay? So here, I'm sorry. So Maitreya Muni is speaking how the glories of devotional service, and he's saying, don't waste time. Just engage in devotional service. Don't waste time in trying to understand the unlimited absolute truth by our limited capacities, incomplete, imperfect senses. You know, he's saying just hear from the authority. Same again, if we want to become a doctor, we buy the textbooks and we try to say, I'm going to become a surgeon by myself. How actually would it be possible for us to become a surgeon? No, we could try till the time we die, but we will not be able to be a proper surgeon, you know. But if we just enroll ourselves in a proper university, train under the proper doctors, for sure we will become a surgeon in a very short period of time, and we will be able to practice. That's the same thing. So text 40, yato prapya nyavartanta vachascha manasa saha aham chanya ime devas tasme bhagavate namaha. Words, mind, and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to offer our respectful obeisances unto him as a matter of sanity. The froggish calculator may raise the objection that if the absolute is unknowable, even by the controlling deities of speech, mind, and ego, namely the Vedas, Brahma, Rudra, and all the demigods headed by Brihaspati, then why should the devotees be so interested in this unknown object? The answer is that the transcendental ecstasy enjoyed by the devotees in delineating the pastimes of the Lord is certainly unknown to the non-devotees and mental speculators. Unless one relishes transcendental joy, naturally one will come back from his speculations and concocted conclusions because he will see them as neither factual nor enjoyable. So we might say, oh, even if the great demigods, they don't understand the supreme absolute truth, so why shall we waste our time? But the process is joyful. So one devotee asked the speaker that, oh, but I don't hear any joy while hearing the pastimes of the Lord. So why is that? So then the answer was, because we are not yet attracted to the Supreme Lord. But then it was like, but it's the same thing, no? How many times we are going to hear the same Kalia story, same Govardhan story, same. So the answer was, every day we do the same things. We wake up, whatever routine, morning routine we have, brush our teeth, wash, take a bath, you know, eat food, go begin our day's activities, whatever they may be in whatever capacity, again, eat food. So we are doing repeatedly the same things, and yet we are finding, oh, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm enjoying myself. So similarly, Krishna's activities, but right now, because we are so attached to our material activities, we are not finding the joy in hearing Krishna's activities. But the more we hear about his activities, the more joyful they will become. We are also doing the same thing. We have a routine in our life, but we are just so attached to this matter that we feel, oh, it's so good. It's so good. So we just have to change the attachment from how do we pass our time to Krishna's pastimes. You know, our consciousness needs to be changed there. So then the devotees can at least know that the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, as the Vedic hymns confirm, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suryaha. Bhagavad Gita 15.15 also confirms this fact. Vedescha Sarver Aham Eva Vedya. By culture of Vedic knowledge, one must know Lord Krishna and should not falsely speculate on the word Aham or I. So what does it mean? It means that if somebody has actually understood Vedic knowledge, then he has come to the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Till the time we do not come to that conclusion means we have not understood the knowledge. We have not, we have not understood knowledge. We are just still speculating with our mind. The only method for understanding the supreme truth is devotional service, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.55, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. Only by devotional service can one know that the ultimate truth is the personality of Godhead, and that Brahman and Paramatma are only his partial features. So many people are trying to understand the truth, and then they adopt different paths. Some adopt the path of knowledge, some adopt the path of yoga. But if we want to understand the absolute truth in totality, the ultimate truth, the personality of Godhead, we have to take up bhakti. Only by bhakti can he be known. Otherwise cannot. Because Brahman, the Brahman feature, which we can realize by getting knowledge, and the Paramatma feature, which we can realize by getting by engaging in meditation, those are just his features. That's not the complete absolute personality. They're only partial. It's just partial realization of the ultimate truth, not understanding the complete absolute truth. This is confirmed in this verse by the great sage Maitreya. With devotion, he offers his sincere surrender, Namaha, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavate. One has to follow in the footsteps of great sages and devotees like Maitreya and Vidur, Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami, and engage in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord if one would know his ultimate feature, which is above Brahman and Paramatma. So if we want to understand the supreme absolute truth, the only way it is to engage in bhakti, devotional service, which begins by hearing and chanting. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra, hear from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Creation of the Universal Form. Are there any questions, comments, or anything to add?
No, all clear.
So we'll stop here for today then. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.